Well, I want to show you a little bit about my bench. I love this bench. I've been working on this for, I don't know, 15 years, little by little. So the top of it is 2 plates about 12 by 1.5 inches by 48. And I got these at an auction, an industrial auction, and these are actually bolster plates out of a huge stamping press. And die blocks. Here's a die block. This is a little one for here in my shop. And the way it works is there's a die, upper die, lower die. There's pins that align the upper and lower parts, and then you put it in a press, and it would cut parts like that. This is set up for doing a corner round on a piece of sheet metal. So that's what a die block is, and that's what these were made for, is bolting die blocks down to in a big press, big monster press. So I just took them and tack welded them together. I've mounted them with a single leg over there and then onto the rest of my bench, which is very, very heavy. So I have a massively solid cantilevered area to work. And I've also set this up so it's exceptionally level in both axes. And what's great about that is when I'm making tables, I can build the legs up and the upright, and then when I do the final weld for the tabletop, I can make sure it's level, which means it's parallel to this surface. So everything is coming out exactly right. Now also this top has a couple of things which are absolutely spectacular. One is it has half 13 holes, that is a 1/2 inch diameter, 13 threads of the inch, drilled and tapped all over this thing. And what's cool about that is I can bolt stuff down. So let's say I want to work on this piece. I can use a standard setup like would be used on a milling machine and bolt down a part just like this, so I could bolt it in and clamp this in place. Totally spectacular. Or I don't have to use the double piece, I can just use a straight 1/2 13 socket head cap screw like that. So that's part of the bench. What's also really cool is, let me go over here and grab this. I've got a whole raft of these guys. These are made by VISE grip, and it's a standard VISE grip action. And then it has a 1/2 inch and again a 1/2 13 thread, and it's really made for, they call it for a drill press. You put it in a drill press table and put it in a nut thingy, a washer and nut on the back side, and you can clamp stuff down. Now I don't use it for that. I use it here on the bench. I drop it in the hole like that, and because of the cam action, when it tightens down, it holds things exceptionally well. So for welding, it's very quick to take 2 pieces, put them side by side, clamp them together, and then weld. It's incredible. I love it. So that's another thing that this bench does for me, which I love. Also, I've got a couple of vices on here. Let me show you this one first. This is the Wilton vise. And this is quick acting, so you turn it open at about 1/4 of a turn, and the nut breaks loose, and you can slide it open and closed, which is really handy. Also, this is sort of a 90-degree vise, so you can clamp stuff vertically on the side here as well as horizontally across here. And of course, it has a little bench dog that comes up, so I can clamp against something like, oh, this table not only has a 1/2 13, also has 1/2 inch through holes, which is what I had this guy shoved into. Now I could clamp something between this bench dog and that beautifully, just like that. Another thing that I put together and I worked on, I put a lot of time into this stupid thing, but it is not stupid, it is spectacular. This is my new vise. It's getting done. There's more things I want to fiddle with, but let me show you what it is. This is a die block like this guy, but huge, well, by comparison to that, not comparison to some of the ones I saw in the plant, or the ones that make car parts like the hood of your car, wham, That's a big die block. So this die block is 1.5 inch thick steel front and back jaws. It has 1 1/4 inch diameter. Now these were short pins, and I'll grab one here for you. It had little shorty pins like this in here. And these are press fit into one side, and then they slide in these guides in the other side. So they'd keep the two pieces in all axes square to each other. Now, I changed those out. I pushed these guys out and I put in 28 inch long, 1 1/4 inch ones. So this will now open 14 inches, actually about 14 inches between the jaw faces. Which is totally spectacular. You also notice it's one finger smooth. Now, the further out it gets, it does get a little stiff, but I'll tell you why they get stiff. It's because it only has a little short, maybe 3 inches of guide here, and this jaw weighs a lot. So as it starts to head out there, it's canting a bit, and it's binding within that little short tube. So if this is here, it would be binding like this. So what I've done is, it's hard to see, but underneath here, actually I'll show another little short video on this. I've got a little support and some UHMW guides which are adjustable on the top of those bars. So it lets this be smooth as it opens way open. I'm not going to bore you with going all 14 inches. Right now it's only, it's 8 inches. So it'll go another 6 inches open. Totally spectacular. Oh, and these jaws are 12.5, and the depth is about 6 3/8 or so. Fantastic. Now, one of the things I just added to this to make it even better. Oh, wait a minute. Before I get to that, let me show you something. This screw in this vise is made by Yost, Y-O-S-T, Yost VISE bench screw. And what it is, 1 1/4 inch diameter, it's 4 threads to the inch, an Acme thread, which is what a vise should have. And it comes with all the parts and everything just ready to bolt up and use. Now, I had to do some modifications to it because it wasn't quite as spiffy as I wanted. But any tool's a kit. No matter how expensive it is, it's just a thing to start with, and then you dial it into what you want. So this Yost vise screw, incredible deal. This was $37 delivered off of Amazon. But then when I checked a couple weeks later, telling a friend about it, it was up to 45 bucks and out of stock. I don't get Amazon. Anyway, the Yost bench screw, absolutely spectacular. So what I've done here is I've added a secondary jaw on the inside of the traveling jaw. This is the fixed jaw, this is the traveling jaw. Now, what I've done, the reason I did that is that one of the troubles vices have with big faces like this, not like a Wilton vise where it has small jaws that just meet in a very narrow area, but a vise like this that has large surface, is that you really want those two faces to come together parallel. But the trouble is that if you have a piece that you're clamping up here at the top, like this, what will happen is as you tighten this, the jaws will end up like this. So what happens is if there's a piece in here, you're clamping it, like if it's vertical this way, you're clamping it only at the bottom, not at the top. Because the more you tighten it, now it's just a point load and it'll flop. It's really ridiculous. The same thing going sideways, over this way, the jaws will twist this way, and it'll pinch on one side, not on the other, and again, this would flop vertically if I was trying to clamp it. So what I've done is I took a piece of 1/2 inch, and again, this is part of a plastic injection molding die that I picked up at a place. They were throwing them out, and I said, no, throw them out. I'll take it. So this 1/2 inch plate, it's been machined on all surfaces, so it's really nice and flat. It's great. What I've done is I've mounted it onto the traveling jaw. Now the way I mounted it is pretty cool. What you can't see is that down here inside of this plate, let's see, maybe I could almost demonstrate with this. If this is the plate, a little sectional view of the plate, I put a bolt down at the bottom, but not just against the plate. I drilled a big hole, and then I welded a washer in there. Let's see, do I have a washer kind of thing? Yeah, so here's a washer kind of thing. Okay, let's call this a washer, all right? And the washer is thinner than this plate. It's just, see, it's maybe an 1/8 inch thick. This is a 1/2 inch plate. And then I used a flathead bolt. So it would only hit the edge of the washer. It would just touch the washer. Beautiful. And then I welded the washer in that big hole in only one side. Because all I need to do is keep this tight up against here. And that washer gives a little bit of bendiness, a little bit of action, a little bit of forgiveness, if you will, to the mounting of this. So that's one point that it's pulled against. Now, of course, it's hitting all the way across the bottom because that plate is being pulled in like this. And then I put 2 little 1/4-20s up here, drilled and tapped through the 1.5 inch thick, so that they hold this upper jaw out just a little bit. So what it does is it kind of preloads that outer jaw. So as I go to tighten it, it torques in a little bit and squares up. Watch this, how it works. So if I take this guy and I put it in, now right now they're kind of canted in, so it's only attached at the top. See that it's pivoting right across this line here. Now as I tighten it down, this jaw deforms, it smushes in there. Oops, starts to grab a little more, right? And as I tighten some more, it grabs, oh my gosh. Oh, that's grabbing, now see, now it's grabbing down below and pivoting on the top. So if I back it off just a tiny bit, yeah, that's pretty solid now. Now this isn't like putting it in a big monster machinist vise like my 6-inch Wilton over there, which weighs, I don't know, 160 pounds and just destroys anything it grabs onto because the jaws have bite. See, these are smooth jaws. This works great though, look at this. And since I use this a lot for welding and holding metal and stuff, that's what I wanted. I wanted something that would hold stuff really well. Now what's fascinating, I didn't even think about this, but it works out, is that the same thing happens when I go this way. See, if I tighten this, these jaws are parallel, so it's pretty solid. Well, it's a little bit loose. I'm not hardly even have it tighten. Just a little bit. There we go. Pretty good. But as I tighten this down, of course, the screw is here, the stopper is here, and it'll those jaws will cant in like this. But because this plate, this secondary jaw, is only supported at 2 points, as that cants in, again, this will deform a bit, and it'll allow line contact down the full length of this guy, making it quite solid for, you know, for holding something for welding or a cutoff with a little cutoff saw, you know, like putting a blade on this guy or something. It holds it really well. I love it. That was a great idea. It worked out spectacularly well. So that's some of the stuff I've done. Now also what I did is on this vise, I drilled and reamed 5 1/2-inch holes on each jaw. What that allows me to do is I can just take a standard hardened and ground dowel pin, drop it in, put something opposing here, and I can clamp between the two. And now that's pretty cool. Now if I put 2 of them in, I can clamp something round. Just like this. And that is very solid for doing work. I love it. Now one more thing I did, I like doing stuff like this, is I made some simple little stops that are just a dowel pin welded into a piece of 3/8 by 3/4, and they drop in just like this. Now, of course, I wanted to keep them here so I don't have to go digging through my toolbox or where did I leave them last? Check this out. They just go in a hole on the end, and there's a little magnet, and it just keeps them right there. Ha ha! Then what that allows me to do is now I have these two little straight guys, and I can clamp a piece of wood or whatever, again, very solidly, very quickly and easily. Now, these holes in the top of the bench jaw of the vise jaws, they aren't just drilled and reamed, they're also threaded with a 1/2-13 in the bottom. So I can bolt stuff on if I want to. I can put it in and clamp that onto that very solidly. Spectacular. I love it. So what that also allows me to do is I can make up a wooden or a metal jaw, or jaw extension more accurately, that would go all the way across here. Put it on and now I've got this very large clamping bench. I love it. So that's some of the things I've done with this. Oh, one more little thing I did is I also drilled and reamed holes in the face of this, 1/2-inch holes. So if I want to clamp something a little higher up and keep it really level, I can put that in there. And since those holes go through, as I tighten it down, it just flattens the pins into there, and I love it. Fantastic. So this is my new play toy. Oh, and also I did put a little bench dog on the end of this that can even rotate and be very tall. And that's a 1/2-13 socket head cap screw. So if I tighten it down with it's just really solid, really square, wonderful. Also, what's really cool is this one, what I did on the head of the 1/2-13, I had a piece of old hose, actually came off of a washing machine, ancient washing machine pump out hose. And I just cut a section and then I smashed it right onto over the head of that socketed cap screw. So it gives me a rubber little gripper thing. So it just is very easy to tighten down and hold in position. Now I just realized, you know, these 1/2-inch pins can actually, whoops, could actually just live in the fixed jaw of the vise at all times, and I can just pop it out. Now that's a good idea. I like that. I should do some more for vertical. See, more things to do. More things to do. Anyway, that's a little quick rundown on my welding bench, my new vise. Oh, and at this point, this baby probably weighs about 135 pounds total when it's taken off the bench. Wonderful piece of equipment. My new play toys.